So I have way too much Beyond Reason stuff to go over today. Way too much. There is a lot going on. And I'll try to do it all in an hour, which is why you listen to the Voice of Reason. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. This is another edition of Beyond Reason Radio, Orlando's Smart Talk Radio, here streaming live at beyondreasonradio.com and on the Beyond Reason Radio app, which you can download at the Google Play or Apple App Store, and you can chat with the show live at either of those locations. Now today, I'm laughing a little bit. You have to when things get this crazy. Today might take the cake on Beyond Reasonness in the political world. Because I don't get it. I don't understand it. I kind of do. I just don't want to believe it. I talked about that in a previous show. That I understand the answers of what's going on in this political world. I just don't want to believe it. But I have to. Because I search for the truth. But what I'm talking about today, which has shocked everybody, is Ben Carson, surgeon running for president, dropped out recently. Ben Carson today endorsing Donald Trump. This is like light in endorsing dark. They are so polar opposites and campaigned on completely opposite things. You know, one of the best examples of this I remember is Donald Trump went on Saturday Night Live, and Ben Carson was asked, would you ever go on Saturday Night Live? And he said, no, running for president is serious business. We don't have time for that. It's totally opposite of how Trump has run his campaign. And yet Ben Carson, out of nowhere, decides to endorse Donald Trump. It ruined all. I really have respect for Ben Carson. I really liked him. I would have voted for him if he was the nominee happily. There was a time I thought about voting for him if he made it to Florida. I liked him. I liked what he talked about. I liked that he was logical and talked about limited government. That's all gone now. Because the logical one, the reasoned one, just became illogical and beyond reason. He was the voice of reason in the room, it seemed like, other than Rand Paul. I thought Rand Paul also came across that way. Now, Rand Paul will never endorse Donald Trump. That's a given. If Rand Paul endorsed Donald Trump, that would be even more beyond reason than this. But Ben Carson came off as a voice of reason and the logical one, the reasoned one, the smart one, and all that's out the window now. Because you can't be the logical one and do something so illogical as this. His credibility is ruined. Now, a lot of you might think I'm being unfair. A lot of you might say, well, this is just because you don't want Donald Trump to be the nominee and you don't like him. Well, fine, whatever. You can believe what you want. You can believe my biases. I'm very open about my biases here. And I don't want Trump to be the nominee because he's not a conservative. Which is why Ben Carson should not want him to be the nominee. But I'm going to play Ben Carson's speech here where he endorses Donald Trump. Earlier today, he did a press conference with Donald Trump and spoke about why he endorsed him. And I'm going to play this, and we're going to go through all of this. Because I don't get it. And the fact of the matter is, well, I do get it. But the fact of the matter is Ben Carson does not get it. He doesn't get it. He doesn't see. He says he's doing this because of the big picture. He doesn't see the big picture. And this is someone I liked and respected. I mean, who's next? Ted Cruz going to endorse Donald Trump now? I mean, I don't understand this. Marco Rubio said earlier that, you know, not only do you have to promote what's good, what Ben Carson did, but you have to speak against what is bad, especially if you're a Christian. I think that's a great point. Now, we're going to talk about this. We're also going to talk about later in the show. A lot of things were revealed in the debate last night, the GOP presidential debate last night. I have to go through a lot of it. And I have to talk about a lot of it. And unfortunately, a lot of it is negative towards Donald Trump again. It's not like I'm trying to be negative here. The fact is, I care about the country. I was talking to a friend today, and I was like, man, I wish I didn't care so much. Because it's hard not to get emotionally invested in what's going on here, to not get totally frustrated at what Ben Carson did today. And it's because I care about the country. And when I'm here, even if candidates I say, and you've heard this on the show in the past, even when candidates I like say things that are bad for the country, I will point it out. But Trump does it all the time. And I don't, why people won't wake up here. There's also some interesting facts about Trump running against Hillary Clinton, how he would do. Basically what I've been saying forever. We're going to talk about that. But I want to start with Ben Carson here and his endorsement of Donald Trump. Here is the speech. And we're going to go through this. And I'm going to talk about what he said and talk about why it's illogical. Ben Carson starts here.
Thank you, Donald. And, this whole process, getting involved in the political process was something that I never particularly intended to do. But, I listened to the people. And it was really all about the people, and it continues to be all about the people. It's not about the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. It's about the people of America. And what I have been seeing recently is political operatives and parties once again trying to assert themselves and trying to thwart the will of the people. I find that is an extraordinarily dangerous place to be right now.
I agree with that part of it. The Republican Party trying to, do a brokered convention, thwart the will of the American people. I get that. But it doesn't mean you have to endorse Donald Trump. Bernie Sanders is getting a lot of the will of the people in the Democrat Party. Are you going to endorse him because that's the will of the people? Are you going to endorse Barack Obama in the past and his presidency, say it's great because that was the will of the people? I understand the whole argument of the will of the people, but what if they're wrong? Are you supposed to be about principles, not just the blind will of the people? But I understand what he's saying. This is a republic. It's based on votes, and the people's votes should be heard, even if we don't like it. So I agree with him there. This doesn't mean you have to endorse Donald Trump, though. Ben Carson continues on here.
And, I want the voice of the people to be heard. I want the political process to play out in the way that it should play out. And, I think the Republican Party particularly would be very wise not to adopt let's stop this guy and let's promote this guy policy, but rather start thinking about what are the things that are going to be helpful for America. Right now, we're in a process of going off the deep end. We're going off the cliff. We're fiscally irresponsible. We're hating each other. We're destroying ourselves. A house divided against itself cannot stand. We're failing to take a leadership position on the world stage.
What really bothers me about that comment? A house divided itself can't stand. He's right. Now, he might be talking about the country here. But when you look at the Republican Party, and actually if you look at the country as a whole, who is creating a lot of that division right now? The candidate you're endorsing, Carson, is the one creating a lot of that division. That is what I don't think you get. The one that has been attacking other candidates, attacking the Republican Party, attacking Muslims, he's the one creating this division right now. And it's not based on principle. And you're saying, well, we need to back Donald Trump so we're not divided? So we're going to back the person who created the division to not be divided? That is illogical. And you're supposed to be the logical one. He continues on here.
Now, some people have said, well, why would you get behind a man like Donald Trump? I'll tell you why. First of all, I've come to know Donald Trump over the last few years, he is actually a very intelligent man who cares deeply about America. There are two different Donald Trumps. There's the one you see on the stage, and there's the one who's very cerebral, sits there and considers things very carefully. You can have a very good conversation with him. And that's the Donald Trump that you're going to start seeing more and more of, right?
So the Donald Trump we have been seeing so far is fake? Is that what you're telling me, Ben Carson? That the Donald Trump we have been seeing from this point before is a liar? That he's been lying to us, that he's been conning us, that he's been faking us? That's not the real Donald Trump. And this is a good thing? This is a good thing. Well, see, he was brash and stuff before, but that's not the real Donald Trump. He just did that to get elected. Oh, okay, so he's a liar. He was conning us the whole time. And you know what? I actually agree with Carson here. I don't think that is the real Donald Trump. I think when Donald Trump, if he ever gets elected president, will not be what all his supporters think he will be. And there's going to be a backlash against him. And they're going to go even more nationalistic after Trump. But so Trump lied to us. He's conning us. That's not the real Donald Trump. And look, he's saying, trust me, I know the real Donald Trump. He's not really like that. Well, I want someone who's genuine all the time. Not someone fake on stage and then real behind the scenes. That is deceiving. It's not a reason to vote for someone, not a reason to endorse someone. I don't think Ben Carson gets it. He continues on.
Right now. And some people said, but, well, you know, he said terrible things about you. How can you support him? Well, first of all, we buried the hatchet. That was political stuff. And, you know, that happens in American politics. The politics of personal destruction, all that, is not something that I particularly believe in or anything that I get involved in.
If you don't believe in it, why are you endorsing the person who does? I mean, I'm sitting here laughing. Oh, that's just politics. That's nothing. We buried the hatchet. Do you remember what he called you? I'm going to play a little bit of Trump totally bashing Ben Carson on a very personal level. I'm going to play that later. But I thought the whole point of supporting Trump was to get away from politics as usual. Isn't that what we were all celebrating? Well, Trump's not the usual politician. He says it like it is. Well, according to Carson, that's not real. According to Carson, Trump is just politics as usual, politics of personal destruction. That's just how politics is. I thought the whole point was to get away from that. I thought that was the whole point of your campaign, Ben Carson, and now you're excusing it? What happened to the man of principle, Ben Carson? Where is your soul? Because if you don't believe in that, why are you supporting it? By endorsing Donald Trump, you're supporting it. And the Trump supporters, I don't see how they don't see that. Because the Trump supporters are going to say, yeah, that was just politics. But the reason why you supported Trump in the beginning was to get away from politics as usual. And now you're supporting it. Beyond reason. Ben Carson continues.
But I do recognize that it is a part of the process. We move on because it's not about me. It's not about Mr. Trump. It's about America. And this is what we have to be thinking about. I have found in talking with him that, there's a lot more alignment philosophically and spiritually than I ever thought that there was. And he will speak to that. But, that actually surprised me more than anything. Because I do recognize how a person's image can be greatly distorted, having been the victim of that. I probably understand it better than anybody.
Oh, so the media's distorted his image. That's what he's saying now. Trump's really not like that. I'm going to play some audio later of Trump that shows he is like that. It's not the media distorting his image. That's how he's portrayed himself. He continues on.
And I think as the American people who we are focusing on, as they begin to see the real individual there and those who are helping that individual, I think we're going to be comforted as a nation. You know, we have to start working together. We cannot allow the agents of division to continue to separate us. As a nation, our strength is our unity.
Once again, who has been the most divisive candidate so far? Who has been the agent of division so far? The candidate you're endorsing, Ben Carson. So don't say you're about unity now when you're endorsing the candidate who has been the most divisive. It's hypocritical. I don't know what Trump promised you, but you've sold out your principles. Sorry, you have. Carson continues on.
And we just have to sort of ignore those people who are always trying to stir up strife. And I'm appealing to some degree to the media as well.
That means we have to ignore Donald Trump because he's the one stirring it up. Carson continues on.
Oh, you know, you're part of America too, and should be interested in strengthening our nation, not in creating divisions, not in creating conflicts all the time. If we start having that American attitude, that American spirit that made us great, that took us to the pinnacle in no time at all, believe me, everybody will benefit from that. We're also talking about how can we make America a place that's successful for everybody. You know, we have 330 million people. We're going to be competing with China with 1.4 billion, India 1.1 billion. We have to develop all of our people. You know, the people who are the downtrodden in our society, we're not doing those people any favor by patting them on the head and saying, there, you poor little thing, I'm going to take care of all your needs. What we need to be doing instead is concentrating on mechanisms to allow those people to climb out of a state of dependency.
Has Trump concentrated on any of that? I mean, really? Has he? I haven't seen it. I guess he will. I mean, the Trump behind the scenes, the real Trump behind the scenes has. Oh, okay.
Become part of the strength and fabric of this nation. That's what America is about. It's not about dependency. And it certainly isn't about socialism. You know, socialism is seen as the panacea by some who don't really understand it. I think a lot of young people think socialism is just being concerned about other people. That's not what it is. You know, it's cradle to grave government. And you let them take care of you. But you give them all of your money, you give them control of your life. They all end up looking the same way. A small group of elites at the top controlling everything, a rapidly diminishing middle class, and a vastly expanded dependent class. That is not what made America great. Donald Trump talks a lot about making America great, but it's not just talk, he means it.
Well, he hasn't addressed anything you just pointed out. The only one who's really addressed that is Cruz and you. So if you would believe in all that, you should endorse Ted Cruz or even Marco Rubio. They're the ones addressing what you just pointed out. Trump hasn't addressed any of that. I mean, come on. I can't help but laugh. It's so ridiculous.
I'm going to be helping him. Others are going to be helping him. You know, one of the things that I've discovered in this country is we have some incredibly smart people. None of us knows everything. But when we begin to use those smart
Don't tell
people
Trump that.
effectively to accomplish the goals of America, you're going to see us once again begin to ascend to the pinnacle, to a much higher pinnacle than we've ever achieved before. And that's where America should be. Thank you so much.
Really is beyond reason. Really is beyond reason. And when we get back, I'm going to play exactly how just one instance. There's a lot. But one instance where Trump totally cut Ben Carson to shreds. But they buried the hatchet. Oh, it was just politics. You're listening to Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. Make sure to download the Beyond Reason Radio app, and you can chat with the show live during the show on the Beyond Reason Radio app, and we will be right back. Are you a small business owner in the Orlando area? Are you looking for a new, affordable way to advertise your business? Well, look no further than Beyond Reason Radio. By advertising on Beyond Reason Radio, you use the power of the internet, of radio, and of podcast. Beyond Reason Radio is available on pretty much any podcast outlet you can think of, and that means your advertisement could be on those podcast outlets as well. What better way is there to reach a loyal conservative audience for you? On Beyond Reason Radio, you get personal advertising by me, Michael Yaffee, the host, to reach people who are interested in your business. If you're interested in advertising on Beyond Reason Radio or the website beyondreasonradio.com or the podcast available, like I said, anywhere, all you have to do is go to the Facebook page, like the Facebook page at facebook.com/Beyond Reason Radio, and send me a message telling me about your business and say you're interested in advertising. Why not help lift your business up today by advertising on Beyond Reason Radio?
It would be beyond reason not to listen to Yaffee on your TuneIn Radio app. Download the app today and search Beyond Reason Radio.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. On this Friday evening, make sure to download the Beyond Reason Radio app as well on the Google Play or Apple App Store, and you can chat with the show, and you can check, if you missed the show live, you can check the podcast of the show on there as well. But we do this show every Monday and Friday at 8 p.m., where I am your voice of reason as we go through everything in the news, in the world, in politics that is beyond reason. And we've been talking about on this show how beyond reason the endorsement of Ben Carson for Donald Trump is, and how he's sold out his convictions, really. Now, we talked earlier about how, well, it was just politics when Trump criticized Ben Carson. Just politics. They buried the hatchet. It was no big deal. Wait. I thought we were trying to get away from politics as usual. I thought that's why people say I should support Donald Trump. But it seems like he's just using politics as usual. Am I wrong on this? You can chat with the show or follow me on Twitter at Beyond Reason R. That is Beyond Reason, the letter R. Here is this is some of the worst criticisms Trump had on Carson, but that they've apparently buried the hatchet over. How easy would it be for you to bury the hatchet over comments like this?
And in the book, he said terrible things about himself. He said that he's pathological and that he's got basically pathological disease. Now, he wrote this, I guess, before he was running for office, or thought that he was running for office. And I don't want a person that's got pathological disease. I don't want it. Now, I'm not saying he's got it. He said it. This isn't something that I'm saying, oh, he's a pathological liar or he's got I'm not saying it. He said he's got pathological disease. He actually said pathological temper, and then he defined it as disease. So he said he has pathological disease. Now, if you're pathological, there's no cure for that, folks. Okay? There's no cure for that. And I did one of the shows today. And I don't want to say what I said, but I'll tell you what.
By the way, this is where it's about to get very, very bad. I guarantee if someone said this about Trump, he wouldn't just bury the hatchet.
Anyway, I said that if you're a child molester, a sick puppy, you're a child molester, there's no cure for that. There's only one cure. We don't want to talk about that cure. That's the ultimate cure. No, there's two. There's death and the other thing. But if you're a child molester, there's no cure. They can't stop you. Pathological, there's no cure. Now, he said he was pathological. Okay. He said he went after his mother with a hammer. He wanted to hit her on the head. Or he hit her on the head, or he wanted to hit her on the head. And I said, wow, that's tough. Man, Did anybody in this audience ever go after your mother to hit her on the head with a hammer? Okay? So he went after his mother. This is in his book. This isn't me. I'm just trying to save you the cost of a book. So he's a pathological, damaged temper, a problem.
So according to that, Donald Trump thinks Carson is a pathological liar, has a bad temper, can never be cured, is practically insane because he went after his mother. This is just one time. He went after Ben Carson on other times over his religion, called the people of Iowa stupid for voting for this crazy man, said basically everything Ben Carson was is a lie. And now today, Trump says, well, I really respect Ben Carson. He's great. He's going to be great for the campaign. You know, it's just politics. It's just politics. We're going to bury the hatchet now. So are you saying that you were lying before? I mean, let's use that term now. Because they're not using that term, but that's what's happening. Carson said earlier, well, Donald Trump is different behind the scenes than he is in public. Does that mean he's lying in public? That's a lie then. Now, Trump says they buried the hatchet. It was just politics. Does that mean Trump was lying about Ben Carson before, or does that mean Trump is lying about Ben Carson now? And I'm going to start using the word lying because that's what's happening. See what I mean about this all being illogical? See what I mean about this all being beyond reason? Because it is. I just love the argument by people. Trump's different. He says what he feels. He says it like it is. He's honest and trustworthy. I had someone comment on the morning show today, said he's honest and trustworthy. What evidence do you have of that? There's not evidence in anything I've played today. In fact, I'm being told by others, like Ben Carson, that he's not honest, but that's okay. And the Trump supporters will make another excuse for it, like they always do, because they're dug in based on a perception. I played Bobby Jindal way early in the campaign where he made a speech, and he said, I like the idea of Donald Trump, but I can't support who he actually is. That says it better than anything. It's all about a perception and idea, not about who he really is. You are listening to Beyond Reason Radio. We have a lot more to get to. I'm going to get into some debate stuff. I'm going to talk about, they talked about Common Core in the debate. It's not being discussed. I have to talk about it. I'm also going to tell you why I like Ted Cruz. I also got to tell you why I like Ted Cruz. Because there's some comments in the debate that prove to me why I like him a lot. Now, he's being attacked a lot today. But I figure I'll be a little bit positive, not all bashing Trump, but I'm going to praise Ted Cruz a little bit to tell you why I support him. You are listening to Beyond Reason Radio here at BeyondReasonRadio.com, streaming live in the Beyond Reason Radio app.
Subscribe to the Beyond Reason podcast today on your Stitcher app and hear the voice of reason anytime.
Are you a small business owner in the Orlando area? Are you looking for a new, affordable way to advertise your business? Well, look no further than Beyond Reason Radio. By advertising on Beyond Reason Radio, you use the power of the internet, of radio, and of podcast. Beyond Reason Radio is available on pretty much any podcast outlet you can think of, and that means your advertisement could be on those podcast outlets as well. What better way is there to reach a loyal conservative audience for you? On Beyond Reason Radio, you get personal advertising by me, Michael Yaffee, the host, to reach people who are interested in your business. If you're interested in advertising on Beyond Reason Radio or the website beyondreasonradio.com or the podcast available, like I said, anywhere, all you have to do is go to the Facebook page, like the Facebook page at facebook.com/Beyond Reason Radio, and send me a message telling me about your business and say you're interested in advertising. Why not help lift your business up today by advertising on Beyond Reason Radio?
If you miss any of the show, you can download the Beyond Reason podcast on iTunes. Now, back to Beyond Reason Radio.
Welcome back to the show. I am your voice of reason, Michael Yaffee, your conscience in your ear, helping you tell the difference between what is right and what is wrong. Make sure you download the Beyond Reason Radio app, and you can chat with the show live, or just follow me on Twitter at Beyond Reason R. That is Beyond Reason, the letter R. Now, I want to get into some debate stuff, because some things were very obvious in the debate. Now, Trump tried to have a different tone in the debate. He tried to be more civil. He tried to be more presidential, I guess. And this just tells me that the whole reason the last debates were a circus is because of Donald Trump. He was the one that kept bringing it into the gutter. So when he doesn't bring it into the gutter, they have a civil debate. But one thing that hasn't really been talked about at all today, which to me is very revealing, is Donald Trump was asked about Common Core and why he doesn't support Common Core. And when I listened to his response, I'm like, this guy knows nothing about Common Core. He has no idea how it was implemented, what it's about, why it's a disaster. He's just reading some line somebody told him. He was asked about Common Core, and this is what Trump said during the debate last night.
Common Core standards were developed by the states. Right. States and localities voluntarily adopt them, and they come up with their own curricula to meet those standards. So when you say education by Washington, D.C., what do you mean?
You're right, Jack, but it's been taken over by the federal government. It was originally supposed to be that way, and it certainly sounds better that way, but it's all been taken over now by the bureaucrats in Washington, and they are not interested in what's happening in Miami or in Florida in many cases. Now, in some cases, they would be. But in many cases, they're more interested in their paycheck and the big bureaucracy than they are taking care of the children.
I mean, the end of that's true. They are interested more in the paycheck and the bureaucracy. But he's wrong on everything before that. It wasn't originally a state idea and then the federal government took it over. What are you talking about? It started out on the federal level and then was adopted by the states later based on a bribe during the recession, that if you want federal money, you have to adopt these standards, and you're now in the federal system. This reveals me he knows nothing about this issue. He talks a good game, but he doesn't understand why this started, why it's a disaster. I mean, I agree with them. It is a disaster. I agree with them. Education should be on the local level. But all that revealed to me is he doesn't know this issue. What happened was, well, actually, I have a cut here from Ted Cruz, and he was asked about Common Core. Ted Cruz gets it on this issue. Ted Cruz pointed out what exactly happened with Common Core. Trump was completely wrong. Trump said this started as a state thing, started as a local government thing, and then the federal government came in and took it over. No. That's not what happened at all. That's wrong. You're making it up. But Ted Cruz got it right, and this is what he said.
Common Core is a disaster. And if I am elected president in the first days as president, I will direct the Department of Education that Common Core ends that day. Now, let me tell you why you can do that, because it's easy to talk about the problem, but you have to understand the solutions. The Obama administration has abused executive power in forcing Common Core on the states. It has used race to the top funds to effectively blackmail and force the states to adopt Common Core. Now, the one silver lining of Obama abusing executive power is that everything done with executive power can be undone with executive power, and I intend to do that. Beyond that, though, Jake, I intend to work to abolish the Federal Department of Education and send education back to the states and back to the local governments. And let me say finally, the most important reform we can do in education after getting the federal government out of it is expand school choice, expand charter schools and home schools and private schools and vouchers and scholarships, and give every child, African American, Hispanic, every child in need, an opportunity to access to a quality education.
Cruz was exactly right in everything he said there. It was basically a bribe. Now, the states were dumb for accepting it, and it shows that our states are too dependent on federal money nowadays. But it was a bribe by the federal government through race to the top funds to implement Common Core state standards. It was seen as, oh, well, it's a state thing. It's actually a local. No. It didn't start out that way. It's never been that way. And Trump is completely wrong. And I liked what Cruz said, too, that he says you have to know how to have solutions to these problems. And he laid out how he can stop it through the Department of Education and then through getting rid of the executive orders by Obama. That's exactly right. But, I mean, who cares about facts and solutions? Trump is brash. He says it like it is. It just, I thought that was really revealing. And, you know, this is more of why I really like Ted Cruz. There's a statement he said during the debate last night here that he's talking in a way about limited government that no one else is talking about. And it's stuff like this that makes me support him more. Now, he's being attacked today by Drudge and others because they say he's a religious nut job. Well, other than his father preaching at a church, and what he said is kind of misinterpreted, but I have no evidence in his record or his history or anything to suggest that he's some religious nut job that's going to govern from the pulpit. I don't have any real evidence of this. I feel like this is all speculation. I feel like it's all it's just not real. They're looking at something and they're like, aha, he's religious. That means we can't like him. And for some reason, the Drudge Report has been all over Trump, loving Trump, and hating Ted Cruz and hating Marco Rubio. I don't know why this is, but that's where it is. And will that work? Maybe. I mean, you paint someone nowadays as a religious nut job, and it can hurt you. And Trump can never, ever, ever be painted as a religious nut job. He's one of the most profane people running for president in our history. Of course, you know, we don't care about that. I mean, we can't be Puritans. That's what somebody told me. We can't all be Puritans. We have to be like this and fight the enemy and be profane. So class and humility no longer matters when running for president. But Cruz said something in the debate here was revealing about his ideology. And I agree with it. And in that, it's a good statement to show why I support him. This is what he said.
Listen, we've got lots of challenges in the world, but the answer can't just be wave a magic wand and say, problem, go away. You have to understand the problems. You have to have real solutions. It's like government spending. It is very easy. Hillary Clinton says she'll cut waste, fraud, and abuse. If only we had smarter people in Washington, that would fix the problem. You know what? That is the statement of a liberal who doesn't understand government is the problem. Here's my philosophy. The less government, the more freedom. The fewer bureaucrats, the more prosperity. And there are bureaucrats in Washington right now who are killing jobs. And I'll tell you, I know who they are. I will find them and I will fire them.
What he said is conservatism. You know, Trump and Hillary, like he said, are about getting smarter people in government to make it better. And what Cruz is saying is what they don't realize is that in a lot of problems that our country is facing, government is the problem. That getting someone different in there is not going to fix the fundamental problem of government. That the government should not be involved in all these things. That it's not the role of government. And there's a reason why it's creating problems, and it shows that is the reason why government shouldn't be involved in these things. You can't fix something that's flawed at its core to begin with. And yet Trump doesn't talk about these things. And a lot of the candidates, Kasich, they really don't talk about these things. Rand Paul did, which I liked. What is the true role of government in our lives? How is it not only that we need better leaders in government, but that government needs to be smaller in a lot of areas? Because when government gets involved in these things, even if you have the right leader at one point, all it takes is the next guy to come in and ruin it. And we have to get back to the idea, and I've talked about this over and over again in the history of this show, that we have to change our thinking back to what the true role of government is. And they didn't just come up with those, the founders didn't come up with that ideology willy-nilly. It's based on principles. It's based on human nature. It's based on facts. And the history of our country has revealed over and over and over again how the government getting involved in all these things ends up just creating more problems. And we're like, maybe we should have listened to the founders. Maybe we should have stuck to the Constitution. When you ever hear Trump or Kasich or anyone else really talk about the Constitution and what it means, really talk about the founding principles of our country and what it means, really talk about conservatism, limited government, and what that means. That is why I support Ted Cruz. Now, there's a part of me that might vote for Marco Rubio in Florida just to stop Trump. I'm getting to that point because I don't trust the guy. There's nothing that reveals that I should. And he doesn't talk like the bot I just played for you. When we get back, I'm gonna play a cut from Rubio that he really did well last night in the debate. And I want to play one cut from him that reveals to me exactly how good he was and makes me like him a lot more. It's hard not to support Rubio in a lot of cases. We're going to get to that, and I want to talk about the whole trade issue, because the whole trade issue with China is not being reported factually like it should. You are listening to Beyond Reason Radio here at BeyondReasonRadio.com and streaming live in the Beyond Reason Radio app.
If you like Beyond Reason Radio, well, make sure to show it by liking the Facebook page at facebook.com/Beyond Reason Radio.
Are you a small business owner in the Orlando area? Are you looking for a new, affordable way to advertise your business? Well, look no further than Beyond Reason Radio. By advertising on Beyond Reason Radio, you use the power of the internet, of radio, and of podcast. Beyond Reason Radio is available on pretty much any podcast outlet you can think of, and that means your advertisement could be on those podcast outlets as well. What better way is there to reach a loyal conservative audience for you? On Beyond Reason Radio, you get personal advertising by me, Michael Yaffee, the host, to reach people who are interested in your business. If you're interested in advertising on Beyond Reason Radio or the website beyondreasonradio.com or the podcast available, like I said, anywhere, all you have to do is go to the Facebook page, like the Facebook page at facebook.com/Beyond Reason Radio, and send me a message telling me about your business and say you're interested in advertising. Why not help lift your business up today by advertising on Beyond Reason Radio?
Listen to the latest episodes of Beyond Reason. Download the podcast at Spreaker.com.
Welcome back to the show. You're listening to Beyond Reason Radio here at BeyondReasonRadio.com. You can catch the podcast anywhere: Spreaker, Podbean, SoundCloud, YouTube, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, pretty much anywhere. So check it out. If you miss any of the show live, you can check out the podcast of it later. Okay, I wanted to talk about another person who did very well in the debate, and that was Marco Rubio. And I just wanted to play one cut from him that I really liked, that revealed to me how intelligent he is, how smart he is, and it makes me like him more because he seems to have a real knowledge of the facts when you ask him questions. And I'm wondering where this Marco Rubio was the whole time. If he was like this the whole time, he probably would have done better. I don't know if some older operatives got to him and told him to be different. But this is he was asked about climate change. And his answer here was very good. And I just wanted to highlight, one part where he did really well.
Sure, the climate is changing. And one of the reasons why the climate is changing is because the climate has always been changing. There has never been a time when the climate has not changed. I think the fundamental question for a policymaker is, is the climate changing because of something we are doing? And if so, is there a law you can pass to fix it? So on the issue of flooding in Miami, it's caused by two things. Number one, South Florida is largely built on land that was once a swamp. And number two, because if there is higher sea levels or whatever it may be happening, we do need to deal with that through mitigation. And I have long supported mitigation efforts. But as far as a law that we can pass in Washington to change the weather, there's no such thing. On the contrary, there is laws they want us to pass. There are laws they want us to pass that would be devastating for our economy. Or these programs like what the president's put in with the Clean Power Act, or all these sorts of things that he's forcing down our throat on the war on coal. Let me tell you who's going to pay the price of that. Americans are going to pay the price of that. The cost of doing that is going to be rammed down the throat of the American consumer, the single parent, the working family who are going to see increases in the cost of living, the businesses who are going to leave America because it's more expensive to do business here than anywhere else. And you know what passing those laws would have, what impact they would have on the environment? Zero. Because China is still going to be polluting and India is still going to be polluting at historic levels. So I am in favor of a clean environment. My children live in South Florida. My family's being raised here. I want this to be a safe and clean place. But these laws some people are asking us to pass will do nothing for the environment, and they will hurt and devastate our economy.
So just to clarify, Senator Rubio, Mayor Regalado, when he talks about the reality of the scientific consensus about climate change, the Republican mayor of Miami, he's saying the scientific consensus is that man does contribute to climate change. When you talk to him, because he is the mayor of Miami and he has endorsed you, you tell him that he's wrong?
I would say to him that there is no law that they want us to pass that would have any impact on that. If you took the gift list of all of these groups that are asking us to pass these laws and did every single one of them, there would be no change in our environment. Sea level would still rise. All these other things that are happening would continue to go on for a lot of different reasons. One, because America is not a planet. It's a country. And number two, because these other countries like India and China are more than making up in carbon emission for whatever we could possibly cut.
Great stuff. Great stuff. One of the best answers on that issue I've ever heard. I wanted to highlight that. Before the end of the show, we only have a few minutes left, but I wanted to get into the trade issue because Trump's all been about we need better trade deals. China's taking our jobs. We can't trade with them. They just, the deficits, the trade deficits are really, really high, and it's because we need better deals. We need better deals and possibly high tariffs. And this is what Trump said on this, and I think this is very misguided. And I did a little research on this today, and I thought about this today, and I'm going to tell you why this is so misguided.
The 45% tax is a threat. It was not a tax, it was a threat. It will be a tax if they don't behave. Take China as an example. I have many friends, great manufacturers, they want to go into China. They can't. China won't let them. We talk about free trade. It's not free trade, it's stupid trade. China dumps everything that they have over here. No tax, no nothing, no problems, no curfews, no anything. We can't get into China. I have the best people, manufacturers, they can't get in. When they get in, they have to pay a tremendous tax. The 45% is a threat that if they don't behave, if they don't follow the rules and the regulations so that we can have it equal on both sides, we will tax you. It doesn't have to be 45, it could be less, but it has to be something because our country and our trade and our deals and most importantly, our jobs are going to hell.
So basically what Trump and a lot of other people have been saying is that the reason why we have these trade deficits, the reason why we have so many imports coming from China is because of bad trade deals. I just don't buy that. For one, the tariffs are not to import into China are not as high as he's making it out to be. But the whole reason that I've seen, the reason why we buy goods from China is because they are able to manufacture and sell the goods cheaper to us than we can manufacture and sell them. That's why. And it's because they have low wages, because they have a completely different economic environment. It has nothing to do with trade deals. It's just they have an environment that is more competitive in the global marketplace where they can sell their items cheaper, which makes us want to buy them. That's it. Trade deals are not going to change that. High tariffs are not going to help that situation. What we have to do is we have to make our country more competitive. We have to create a more competitive environment here in America so we can compete. Because whether we like it or not, We live in a global economy, whether we like it or not. And we have to be able to compete. Now, it doesn't mean we have to pay our workers slave wages. There's other ways to compete. But there are so many government regulations, like the climate change regulations Rubio talked about earlier, that make it harder and harder for us to compete. And the Democrats want to keep adding benefits, increasing wages, minimum wage, and all that stuff. And that just makes it harder for us to compete. And we're going to have to compete, whether we like it or not. And this can be done, by the way, because a lot of people look at the automobile industry and Detroit and how it failed. But, you know, Hyundai and Kia and Toyota, actually, they manufacture, they import some of the parts, but they manufacture a lot of the cars they sell here. Hyundai and Kia especially have invested billions of dollars in this country to manufacture here. But what did they do? They went to southern states, they went to right-to-work states, and they were able, because those states have a more competitive economic environment. So they can manufacture here. We're still number 2 in manufacturing in the world. You wouldn't believe that, but we are. And in certain states that our economic environment is good, we manufacture a lot of stuff here. There is a model to be more competitive without increasing tariffs on China, because that won't work. The other thing I've found is that, believe it or not, we are hitting record exports to China. A lot of, you would think with Trump that we can't sell China anything. We can't export anything to China. That's not true. The fact is, America exports to China in 2004 soared to $128.8 billion in 2014, nearly 100% 5-year jump. We're exporting a ton to China. In fact, I got this from the Washington Examiner. In fact, China is America's number 3 top export target, behind Mexico and Canada. And of course, those are going to be higher because they're on our continent. But exports to China are exploding. The fact is, we are being competitive in some ways, and we are exporting to China, and some of our businesses are growing because of our exports to China and our exports to India. So this whole idea that, well, it's because of bad trade deals, when I look at the evidence, I don't see that is the case. I don't see that the trade deficits are because of the trade deals. I see it's because Democrats, especially in many parts of this country, have made it hard, have created an economic environment in our country that has made it hard to compete with other countries. Now, the good news is we will be able to compete. Technology is going to change so much in the next 20 years that we won't need to have slave labor to compete. We'll have robots do it. I mean, that's just the facts. We'll have new technology. And what we need to do is train our workers not only to be technical, but to be creative thinkers so they can be creative and use that creativity to compete in a global market. That is where the goal should be, not this protectionism that Trump's saying. For a businessman, I think he has to know this. All of these big businesses that are they're trying to sell to China. They are selling to China. We export a ton to China. China is going to be a more consumer economy, and that is great news for us, as we can sell a lot of our products to them. But if you start trade wars with these countries, if you start high tariffs with these countries, that not only kills our imports coming in, but that kills our export market. And as I showed you, that is huge now for us. What Trump is talking about is dangerous. It's dangerous, I think. Whew. We covered a lot. We covered a lot in this show today, but I think, time's about out. We got it all in, though. I'll end by reading the verse from Philippians I always end with, that Trump needs to take this advice. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Put it into practice, and the God of peace will be with you. Whew. A lot of Beyond Reason stuff, but your voice of reason was here through it all. Have a good weekend, everybody, and I'll catch you guys on Monday.